Okay. Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone, depending on which part of the world you are. We're absolutely delighted today to host a plenary panel. Hakim and I were super, delighted to have this panel. This panel is actually probably the last panel that you are chairing, Yannis, as our exiting president of the ACM. So Yannis Ioannidis was until 2 days ago. So we are very honored to have him here. Until 2 days ago, he was the president of the ACM. It's thanks to him and the ACM that we have, this beautiful series of conference. He's a president of the ACM until 2 days ago. There is a new one, but let's give him the respect and the welcome that he deserves for all the work he did for this conference. Actually, it's under his presidency that we transition the ACM conference from IW3C2 to an ACM, so web conference, sorry, from the IW3C2 to the ACM. So we're super happy to be part of the big ACM community. And he's also a professor of computer science at Athens University. And I promise I will not go through his bio, so the stage is yours. Go ahead, Yannis.
Thank you very much for this introduction. It's a great pleasure and I'm happy that I was given this opportunity and host this, coordinate this panel. I'm really, I wish we were all together in Dubai physically, even in April, when it was supposed to happen. But thankfully, technology is giving us at least this opportunity to be together. Very quickly, it's the panel. The name of the panel is trying to combine two things: artificial intelligence and open science. And the full title is "Artificial Intelligence Fueled by and Fueling Open Science." There is an interaction between these two major changes in the way we do things. So this panel will examine various aspects. Well, artificial intelligence, I don't have to tell you what artificial intelligence is. It's everything or very specific things. It's not just large language models. It is other things, other deep learning, machine learning, foundational models, specialized models. So whatever you can think of, that's artificial intelligence. We mustn't forget embedded artificial intelligence like robotics and so on. Open science is essentially, if you think of the research life cycle, doing everything in the open. The easiest thing that people can understand is open access. So the publications and data sets and software and so on are openly available at the point of use, free of charge by anyone. And ACM, let me say that it's the first organization of the magnitude and quality that as of January 1st, 2026, opened up the digital library in open access completely. It is a major milestone, and I'm happy that I happen to be the president when this happened. It's a work of a lot of people. But that's not it. It means open reviews. It means open archives using open infrastructures, revealing intermediate results, failed experiments. I'm going backwards now in the research life cycle, even to the point of having an idea when you say, okay, I'll study this thing, revealing what you want to study from the very beginning, revealing your methodology. And if you fail, fail, but the world is watching. So open science means opening the entire research life cycle. So what we will examine is a bunch of questions related to this relationship between openness and artificial intelligence. We are very lucky that we have 5 wonderful panelists. Thank you very much for agreeing to join the panel. We span quite a few time zones. We span quite a few age zones, from seniority to very young and vibrant, to put us in the right on the right track. And I'm really excited. So I'll start short introductions from our panelists. So everyone has 3 minutes to say a little bit about themselves and what do they think is the importance between AI and open science. And are these two things orthogonal? Or if you use AI, you have to be open or not open, and so on. I will start with Mounia. Please, Mounia.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation of this panel. Congratulations, Yannis. I'm sure you're going to enjoy more things happening next. So who I am, I'm Mounia Lalmas. I lead the research organization at Spotify, focusing on personalization, recommendation, and evaluation. My background is information retrieval, web retrieval, user engagement, evaluation, and so on. And I'm on the other parts, like the maybe not so vibrant things, but still feeling vibrant. 20 years bridging research in academia and industry. So yes, I've been on kind of both sides. So what is my general view, especially with this question about this orthogonality? I don't think they're orthogonal. They may look like this, but I think there's a lot of fluidity into this. They kind of are pulling between each other, the AI and the openness. So yes, we do have closed AI in closed science. We do have open AI without open science. But what we're saying, at least what I'm saying, is like a move towards the open end of both dimensions. So for example, this conference, the web conference, is really a driving force here. It has been really very much championing like the open data, open benchmark, open evaluation, and it's doing the same for AI methods. So the quadrant more with like when it's one of them is closed and so on. And if you look at the other one where there's more openness, I think this is where a lot of the energy it is happening. And this is a direction I'm seeing in general happening respect to this AI and openness. So to give a little bit more concrete, okay, AI openness, for example, at Spotify, we use open weight model to build domain adapted, recommender system, and we produce artifacts that we give back to the community. So for example, we built Backstage, which is a developer platform that we have open source and donated to the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. And what this is doing is providing the structural knowledge layer that AI assistant can use to reason. This is more into the engineering. So this is an example of maybe close to openness. And also from the openness, what the like of industry can do, and we are doing this, is to share the research method. For example, I presented during the keynote semantic ID so other people can see what is happening, even if you don't have access to those models to some extent, and through publication and at venue like this one. So I'm feeling positive.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please, Wendy Hall, who is our 5th panelist, is trying to get in. She needs to be admitted as a panelist, so if the host can do this for her so that she can participate. Giorgio, please, a few things about yourself and then that orthogonality.
Yes, thank you so much, Yannis, and thank you all for the invitation and welcome everyone to this panel. So I'm Giorgio Di Nunzio. I'm Associate Professor in Computer Engineering at the University of Padua, Italy, and where I work mainly in information retrieval, technology-assisted review, NLP, and computational terminology. And given the panel, I also serve as a rector's delegate for open science at the university. And probably when I was thinking about this panel is that one of my most important part of my background in research concerning open science is the fact that I've been involved for several years, probably more than 20 now, in what we used to call cross-language evaluation forum, now Conference and Labs Evaluation Forum, which is an initiative and a very good example of how shared tasks, open evaluation campaigns, reusable datasets, and benchmarks can help scientific community to make progress. So for me, open science has always been, since I started my research career, not only access to papers and data, but also shared evaluation protocols, reproducibility, and common infrastructures. So as also Mounia was saying, AI and open access, open science are connected, probably orthogonal, or I don't know, maybe we can discuss it a little bit more. They're not the same thing, of course, because AI can be used in open science, but of course you can use it in very close environments. Open science can and has existed without AI. So we have open data, protocols, software, peer review, and this has been like this forever. So it's not necessarily linked to AI. So I would say that in practice, we have been seeing increasingly influence each other, AI and open science. AI systems need access to data, code, benchmarks, and open science provides exactly these resources. And at the same time, AI can help researchers prepare data, prepare workflows, extract metadata. The risk, which is probably one thing that we will discuss in the panel, is that since AI can automate part of the research process, the process has automatically become more open. And this is partially true, but openness requires a lot of effort by the community. It's not just automation, it requires documentation, provenance, transparency. So my general view is that I'm quite optimistic, but cautious in the way we need to explore and explain to young researchers how AI can be a very powerful accelerator for open access.
Sure. As you said, some of these things we'll examine later in a little bit more detail, which is wonderful. Thank you. Let's cross the Atlantic and go to Taylor. Taylor, please, your 3 minutes.
Yes, hi. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. I'm in Montreal in Canada, so that gives me a little bit of an early morning. So my name is Taylor, and in terms of my background, I come from a technology policy background as well as computer science background. So I'm a computer scientist or software engineer by training, who's now working in policy. I specifically work as a policy advisor to Yoshua Bengio at MILA, which is the Quebec AI Institute, which Professor Bengio founded back in 2018. MILA itself is a research institute that's dedicated to over 1,200 researchers who are all addressing different core questions related to AI. So at its core, it's really a research institute that does a bunch of other different operations, including stuff like policy research, as well as education and other aspects around AI. So that's a little bit about me. To answer your question about the orthogonality of open science and AI, I think in theory, they're opposed, but I think that's only in theory. If you look at the history of deep learning, it was really developed because of open science for a large part. Things like archive, open data sets, as have already been mentioned, and every other different tool that we had really got us to where we are now. And it's also because of things like open sourcing and all these things that have built up a large ecosystem over time to enable these discoveries. And I think that's something that really demonstrates why AI is also a scientific artifact and has become a tool that can be used within the open science process. I think it was mentioned a little bit earlier, but there's different combinations you can have, right? You can have no AI and open science. You can have no AI and open science, or the other side of that, you can use AI and either have non-open or open science. It really ends up becoming kind of this matrix of possibilities of what you can do. And AI is both fueling the development as well as being fueled by open science. But I think where we go wrong sometimes is we're treating AI merely as another standard scientific tool in a matrix like this or in a practice of openness can be a mistake. Well, AI was clearly facilitated by open science. Right now, how AI impacts open science is a much more complex relationship. What we're seeing is various different compute and safety bottlenecks that are starting to really feed or modify this cycle of openness that we expect to see in open science. We cannot just say we have an open AI model and guarantee that the process then becomes open. So that's my thought, is that, well, these two are not orthogonal and they often fuel and feed into each other. I think we're mistaken to treat AI just as a tool in this case.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Two more panelists. Philipp, your 3 minutes, please, who you are and what you do and your thoughts.
Yeah, sure. First of all, thanks a lot also from my side for the invitation. So my name is Philipp Christmann. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the CISPA Helmholtz Center for Information Security in Germany. And my main research interest is at the intersection of AI agents with data and knowledge. So I did my PhD at the Max Planck Institute for Informatics and Gerhard Weikamp's group. And my PhD thesis work was on combining information from structured, unstructured sources for answering knowledge-intensive tasks and questions and making the answering process investigable. And now at the CISPA Helmholtz Center, I'm still working on this intersection of AI agents and data, but I'm looking more into aspects that are also relevant to this panel, I suppose, such as trustworthiness, safety, security, and in particular also privacy. So that's about my person. And I would like also to comment a bit on my perceived importance of the interplay of AI and open science. I think we already see that AI is prevalent in research everywhere nowadays, be it in writing or refining papers, in coding or code infrastructure. And there it's really used as some sort of a tool that enables faster iterations or essentially doing research faster. One very promising direction that I feel is still a bit underexplored is also the other part where open science can actually really contribute. And specifically, it's about connecting the dots between different research areas that are probably disconnected or have been disconnected for a very long time, and trying to bridge, in the first place, for example, the language that might be different in between different research areas. And here, open science can be a very important tool, or can enable AI really to bridge the communication between these different areas. And at the same time, AI can there also be used to identify promising hypotheses that span across these interdisciplinary fields. Maybe also briefly commenting on the orthogonality, I would also agree with what other panelists already mentioned there, that I think there are all these different variants, AI without open science. Hopefully we will still be able to also do science without AI in the long run. But I think there's also this some sort of not dependency, but this tremendous benefit from open science on existing AI. So I think it's almost clear that the current AI systems have also been trained on a lot of open science. And it's also very likely that those insights in this open science led to great improvements of these models.
Great, great, wonderful, thank you. And last but not least, among our panelists for this round of present yourself and then talk about the interplay, just a little bit, not the details that will come, Dame Wendy Ho.
What's the question, Yannis?
The question is, what is the importance of AI in open science, and are they orthogonal? I mean, can you have one without the other, and so on? And that's the main thing. But first, if you can tell who you are. Everyone knows, but still.
I'm Wendy Ho. There's only one Wendy Ho.
Indeed.
Oh, sorry, I shouldn't play around. It's not fair. Yeah, well, I'm Dame of the British Empire. I'm fellow of the Royal Society, fellow of the Royal Academy of Engineering. But also I wrote the UK's AI strategy, and then I was on the UN high-level advisory board for AI, and now I mix with the great and the good, trying to sort out how we govern AI globally for the good of humanity, as the UN report said. I am going to say two things here. I have no idea if I looked at your questions, but there seem to be a lot of them. So I'm just going to say the two things that I think are most, possibly three, that are most important here up top. I think that none of you, I mean, you're all thinking about how, open science, yes, for the good, but we are all in danger of being held to ransom by the big AI companies and the Trump administration. The games they're playing at the moment, you could, what LLMs are you going to use to do your work? And what happens if they get switched off? And where's your data going? Where are you storing it? Who's got access to it? Who's using it for harvesting, blah, blah, blah. I mean, all those issues it's the Wild West at the moment. That leads me on to thinking about China. China's trying to play the good guy here, but they play a very long game. I hear that President Xi's going to make a big announcement in Shanghai in July about a World AI Cooperation Organization. They are, I mean, my friend Jay Tang, his company Zippo, took the world by storm last week because he released an open version of his software, GLM, the Zippo software, which is as good as OpenAI and Anthropic. So that changes all, are the investors going to back AI and OpenAI and Anthropic when they've got an open weights version people can use for free if you don't mind it being Chinese? Microsoft's already using DeepSeek. So what happened? These companies are not. I'll say something that I often say in these debates. The universities, are we all from universities here? Is anyone, I can't remember, is people from?
No, we have people, diversity.
Oh, Mounia, I know, is Spotify. But let's just say we all came out.
Research centers,
we all came out of universities at one point or another. The universities will be around a lot longer. And as a Greek, Yannis, you know this more than anybody. The universities will be around a lot longer than any of these companies, no matter who makes money out of them and what the billionaires do with the money that they make or don't or lose, because they're very, what's the word? They seem incredibly powerful, but they're very vulnerable. Very vulnerable. AI is going to become increasingly expensive. That's the power they're selling tokens, and companies are running out of tokens, and having to go. And we haven't, we've got all this stuff about the chips and the energy usage and all that, which we can engineer our way through eventually, but not in the short term. And universities, although we will be around a lot longer, and we do have fabulous legacies of teaching and training people to go into this whole area, we're going to have difficulty getting the resources to do the work we want to do. Yeah. And so there's that to think about. I could say more later, and think about whether we should all move to Chinese models. And lastly, I'll just make the point that, as you know, Yannis, because you appointed me, I'm co-chair of the ACM Publications Board for my sins. I don't know what I did wrong somewhere, but anyway.
Many good things.
You know I love it, but I was president, right? So why? And it doesn't matter. What I spend my life now on emails about how AI is going to change the process of science, how people are using AI to write papers, to do the research, and to review the research. And there's the sort of extreme Black Mirror scenario that says we just end up with the AI doing the research and we won't need people, the sort of Elon Musk story. And that I don't agree with that scenario, but I do think AI is, if it's not checked in some way, or if we don't have just real deep discussions about how we want to use AI as part of our work as a team, us humans and machines in a team to do the research, are we just going to hand it all over to the AI and dismantle the universities? I don't think that's going to happen, but we really need to think about that as a scenario going forward. Sorry.
No, this is great. I'm really glad because in addition to your other things, the next thing in my schedule in the flow I had prepared was a question to you that you already answered. Will we have AI researchers and AI paper authors and reviewers? And you already answered it. We need to think about
Well,
it
we do
seriously.
have to a certain extent already, and
Exactly.
it's how much we as a community, how we manage that as a community. I mean, yeah, my email box is full of us discussing this, and we're discussing it with the AAAI, and you know, we can't, when you get 10,000 papers submitted to a conference, many of which are either fraudulent or are duplicates of, you know, some authors submit a lot of papers about the same thing. And then, you know, and then who do you get to review all that? Who do you get to police it, what we're doing? And, you know, I do a lot for the Royal Society as well, and we're discussing all that there. Because the whole concept of peer review is in danger.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we can have AI researchers, but also human researchers, and it will be a hybrid community. We'll see, we'll see. Thank you, thank you. Moving on, now, it was obvious from your answer, Wendy, and of course the others alluded to the same thing. AI does facilitate, you know, science. It may or may not be a tool. Taylor mentioned about the word tool as well. But we have AI into the research process. But let me, for science, but does AI facilitate the advancements of open science in particular? I mean, does it make it easier for researchers to open their data or come up with persistent IDs and so on and so forth? Giorgio, what do you say?
Yeah, thank you, Yannis. Yes, I mean it's a complicated question, but I'll try to to give my point of view, of course. Yes. So we have been seeing that AI it's helping open science in doing some of the tasks that we need to perform in order to have open science. So one practical problem that we have in open science is that makes something open is expensive. So to open a data set, it's not just upload a file somewhere, even though I always say to my colleagues, oh, at least publish your data set in any format somewhere, otherwise I cannot use it. And that's one first step. But you need, of course, additional stuff like documentation, metadata, licenses, and to a higher level of degree of being complicated stuff, data cleaning, data provenance, and whatever. So, and it takes a lot. So I have the chance to work. I've been also involved in the European Open Science Cloud Association, and I work with a lot of people from other institutions at the European level. I've been working for some time with Mark Wilkinson, which is one of the many authors of the popular paper Fair Guiding Principles about findability, accessibility, interoperability, and usability. And we are currently analyzing across different institutions how ready are data and research repositories to support data level discovery. And it's a lot of work if you want to double check everything at a human level accuracy. So AI can help, and it's helping. And it's important because you can discover things that you overlooked as a human, as any other human. You can do mistakes. You are tired after a number of hours. So it is helping. But I always say we have to be very careful in one thing, because AI is good, but not perfect, or at least as good as we would like to be. So one thing is to measure AI from a researcher point of view. If I'm a researcher, I want to do something better than the state of the art, and I'm fine. but is the accuracy of the state of the art of AI of, for example, data cleaning, finding links, named entity recognition good, or as good as we would like to have for opening data sets right now? And we have to be very, very careful. So there is a real opportunity, and we have been using AI tools for assisting researchers in creating, documenting, linking data sets. But open science still need good standards, good provenance, as you were saying, Yannis, persistent identifiers, and it's not perfect. So it's really, we really need to be careful in being the last double check. The human checker is, as we are seeing, the thing that we need after we have processed everything through AI. So yes, long story short, AI can facilitate open science, but I would say when it is embedded in a transparent workflow, and when we know what we are doing with AI, and we know when we want to intervene or to correct something.
Oh, wonderful. Good. So Wendy said, yes, AI helps science and research. Giorgio said, yes, it helps open science. Well, this panel is at the web conference. So Mounia, is there specifically something about the web science, the web center research, where AI can particularly help in this direction, the interaction in the research life cycle between openness and so on, but about the topic of the conference we're in, the web?
Yeah, thank you for this question. It made me really think, and also going back to the history of how the web, the WWW conference
No,
has
you can't
evolved.
say that.
It was called WWW, now the web conference. I was referring to the history, and has evolved, and I think it has been pretty instrumental into really mapping everything. So, for example, the web community, has built like infrastructure of openness. You have HTML, URI, HTTP, W3 standards. So they're all open by design. So it's not just, okay, you come on the web, you can just publish, but it was the creation of a standard and protocol that makes everybody else to be able to publish and put things on the web and so on. And that foundation has, to some extent, the way the web community is like, is how web research work. You come to the web conference, you hear about web scale information retrieval, web mining, recommender system, a lot about search, use the usage like of open data, for example, respect to the search, open benchmark like Track and ClueWeb, and also open evaluation. A lot of the work that was presented in the conference over the years, the research method, crowdsourcing, user study in the wild, and many, many other things are kind of now standard in ML and AI. So I think we have to really recognize this. And something that maybe is a little bit unique with the web. So the web is both a subject and the medium of open science. We put papers on the web, the data is shared via the web, we put codes on GitHub, preprint on archive. So and this is becoming quite common, this kind of notion to share things. How does this translate to what is happening now? We're seeing kind of this pattern in terms like open design and so on. So it is MCP, which is the Model Context Protocol, is being introduced by Anthropic and is now under the Linux Foundation. It is an open standard for connecting agent to tools and data source. It follows really the same logic that the web community has always championed, agree on an open protocol so system can interoperate. And for example, we use it also at Spotify to do quite a lot of the things. So I view this as the role is really big. We have done much more, and we have this conference that is continuing, bringing various people and so on. So we are in the middle of everything. I'm not saying that it's perfect. A lot of work. There is challenge. not all of AI development is moving in this openness. We don't know some of the most capable models, like, how they work. They remain closed in their data, their training process and architecture. But I do believe that this web community has really the experience in them into building open standards that work at scale. So their experience is going to be extremely relevant. And I can hear Wendy with all the work she's doing and many other people in this group and during the conference. So lots of things to think about, but we're in it kind of together.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. That's exactly the spirit. And parenthetically, let me say, since you referred to the history, I am really glad that now the web conference is the ACM Web Conference. It is part of the family of ACM, and we have Wendy to thank for bringing it to the largest, most highest quality society that there is. Thank you very much, Wendy, for this.
I brought it home.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's you captured exactly the spirit. ACM is the home. All the good things for me should be in the ACM home. Moving on, let's move now in the opposite direction. Does openness in the research life cycle facilitate the development of AI? And an obvious thing is if you have open data, then AI can analyze it and use it for the model. But does it go beyond that? Can they be beyond the generation? And if even wherever it may be going, specifically for you, Philipp, since you care about privacy, security, factuality, and so on, how are these implicated when we use open science to develop it?
Yeah, thanks a lot for the question. I think there are multiple facets. And first, I would probably like to comment a bit also on Wendy's earlier comment regarding the dependence on few industrial players, also in the research community, because I think openness, especially if we think about open weight models, can help there to some extent, because nowadays the gap between the open weight models and the industrial players has really become much smaller, and this enables also researchers to some extent to build AI without any such dependence. Commenting also about the open access to papers, datasets, research artifacts, and also building in this direction, I think this really helps development of AI in many different facets, because again, foundation models are trained on all of these resources, including also the code, and they digest this in the parametric knowledge. What I would like to emphasize here still is the other aspect of open source, that you can still use it also for grounding at inference time, and then be able to trace and verify the answers or the reasoning process of the AI. This brings me also a bit towards these implications on security, factuality, and traceability that you mentioned. And I think there is no straightforward answer, even in the security or safety community, specifically again on open weight models, because on the one hand, these open weight models are, for example, safety aligned, which when you download them helps mitigate some of these harmful issues, for example, thinking about generating any harmful images. But then having them open weight also brings in this challenge of being able to fine tune and essentially overcome these safety training paradigms again. One very recent incident in this area that's also affecting security is the vulnerability discovery, exploit generation, and offensive cybersecurity task capabilities of language models. So this is something to consider. At the same time, I think there's still an agreement in the community that it's important to have the models openly available for analysis, for identifying these problems in the first place, and for also identifying how to mitigate them. But I just wanted to highlight this sort of tension that I also see here from a security perspective.
Sure. Good, yeah. So no matter what we do for good, more challenges come in, and we have to deal with them. And let me go now to you, Taylor. I mean, you are combining two things that are extremely valuable. As you said, you are a computer scientist, but you are a policy advisor, and in fact, advisor to one of the demigods of AI, Giorgio. What kind of policies do you think that should be adopted by academia, by industry, by ACM itself, or what are governments to facilitate openness in research and AI models, or maybe together in some unison? And how far are we from having such policies? And what about geopolitics? You know, the world is not one thing, unfortunately. So please.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And to start, I want to draw one distinction in terms of what we mean when we say open science and we talk about open source AI and how that's a part of open science. I think that's something that often gets very easily conflated, right? Open source AI does not automatically mean open science. We often hear about massive models being released, but when you think about it, releasing a 100 billion parameter model is practically useless to the average academic who doesn't have the GPU clusters required to fine-tune it or run it. Just because something is open doesn't necessarily mean it's open access, which is really the core of open science, is being able to freely use these tools as well. True science is accessible, and open weight frontier models are right now heavily concentrated in the hands of those with extreme computing power. And this brings me to something that I'd say is a core policy challenge right now when we're talking about the need to use these tools, but also the tension around frontier AI. On one hand, we want to preserve and accelerate the transparency of academic researchers and contribute to this open science process and provide more information and more advancements. This is very countered by what you can say is the proliferation of frontier AI models. Highly capable general purpose models that can write advanced malware, something like we saw with Mythos, versus biological foundation models that are also being used right now to strip away safeguards and create things like weapons or biological concerns are obviously floating on the other. And to kind of mitigate this, I think there's an interesting distinction we need to draw between specialized tools that can be very useful in the scientific process and this general proliferation of AI more in the frontier model space. When we're looking at more specialized tools, it's much more easier to say something that is narrow scope for science, like using models to predict weather patterns, can really help in the advancement, but help us avoid some of the risks that we see with this dual use technology. And in a policy regime, we need to separate what we're talking about when we're talking about imposing regulations on these tools. What I would classify as more similar to a traditional tool to help in the advancement of science is something like a narrow-scoped AI versus something like a general purpose frontier model, which isn't just a tool. It has a lot more implications and is much harder to regulate around, specifically when we're talking about its use within the scientific process. This is particularly because of the dual use nature of such general purpose technologies. So to deal with these kind of concerns of this scope of specialized to general purpose AI, we need a policy regime that separates this. For governments and at the international level, that looks like strict hardware tracking, compute resource usage, as well as mandatory licensing, and a strong reliance on the precautionary principle, which is proof that these models really are safe before they're actively used within an open process. And for the ACM and academia, that really translates into the need to preserve everyday open science while refining our ethical boundaries for advanced capabilities. Organizations like the ACM having processes that specifically address these existential and ethical challenges that arise when AI research starts to border on these high dual use capability targets. We need to ensure that there's ways in which we can test and ensure that things are validated before they're released to the broader community on the whole. And to address your final point on how close we are to this, unfortunately, we're dangerously behind. Right now, we're relying on a lot of goodwill from corporations that are kind of all competing with each other. Luckily, with Mythos, the release was held back a little bit under Project Glasswing, for those of you who've been following that. But even that's not a perfect example, as it still had a lot of different caveats to it. In terms of also policy legislation, there was an interesting caveat where foreign nationals within the US who were part of Anthropic's safety team weren't allowed to actually test Mythos because of its advanced capabilities. This is because of like the export control laws in the US. So we're starting to run into things like this throughout this race to develop the best AI model, which means we're just dangerously behind on a policy front. We're not doing what we need to preserve this use of narrow AI models or the use of tools within the scientific process while strictly containing the frontier AI proliferation. And we're not really prepared to handle what's coming next.
Yes, challenges at these levels as well, and no way out. Before I bring the now question to anyone who wants to answer, let me encourage all of you who are attending this panel. Please type your questions to the panelists, and then I'll pose them to the panelists, and they will ask. We have 12 more minutes. And it would be great if some of the questions that the panelists will answer will not be mine, but will come from the audience. So please go ahead and do this. Let me, now I'm choosing from the questions that I had prepared in general. And whoever of you wants to answer this, you talked about the dual use, you talked about Wendy brought in the big tech, and you talked about frontier models. Actually, I came from the Bay Area, where I came to a meeting for an open frontier, and a bunch of people were gathered together to discuss about possibility of having something that we develop outside of the big tech. So is there a chance that an open AI model, not open AI, the common open AI model, 2 hertz, is built as an open community-led effort from academic and even industrial partners around the world. So no geopolitics. And where will some of the challenges, where will we find the data to train such foundational model? Where will we have find the computational power? And I'm still past president of my beloved ACM. What can ACM do? So let's have a dream that there will be one more, not the US one, not the China one, not I don't know, from Mars, but it will be a global effort for an open. What do you think? Is this within our reach? Who wants to take a stab at it? Wendy, you are well embedded into the UN, so you know the global things. Can something like this be fall on good ears at the UN level, or not?
Well, the trouble is, I mean, I was involved when when Rishi Sunak became Prime Minister in the UK, which was back in Boris went, so it was in the after ChatGPT, right? So that 23. we had an effort to build a sovereign AI model for the UK, and that was killed by his government. And the reason behind it was the resource it would take to develop and then maintain. Now, we were never talking about a commercial model. We were talking about a model actually for research and for education, because my argument is, I mean, I'd be interested to know what model do you use, Philipp? You talked about, go on.
Yeah, so for example, I'm currently running experiments with Gamma 4, which can be even run on my own laptop.
Where does that come from?
That's from Google, but Quen models, so even the 30 billion parameter models, I think are on many tasks, if you have the right scaffolding around it, quite powerful already.
Sure. It's just that to do, I mean, Google have got the ability to, again, you're dependent on a company like Google, but I have to say my bet's always been on Google, because they don't have to go to IPO. Like they've got Demis Hassabis, and B, they don't, his team, and B, they don't have to go to IPO to raise the money, and they've already got our data. So been doing that for decades, harvesting our data. So they have a lot of strengths and a fantastic research engineering team as well. The transformer stuff came from Google. So my eye has always been on them for the long term in this. And if they're producing an open weight model that people can play with, that's great. We're actually, my issue that I'm dealing with here is that we need, if we're going to train the next generation of scientists who are going to develop or use these models seriously in science, they need to be able to get inside the black boxes. And so I'm still pushing one of the people who says, I think the UK should develop a sovereign AI for research and training, not to compete with the Anthropics or the OpenAIs or the DeepSeeks or whatever, but so that and so that we do have something to fall back on if you know, if all bets are off and we lose access to any other model. I mean, if Trump put on export controls on Google as well as, you know, I mean, you just don't know what might happen, and or what might happen with our countries having access to the Chinese models at all. So that's what I think for us it's the training. For me, it's training future scientists and researchers, and the people who are going to drive the next generation of AI technology, who will all graduate from some university. Whatever people say about, oh, you don't need to go to university. Well, actually, if you want to do this sort of stuff, you do. You have to be trained. And as I said to the king, sorry, I have to drop that in every so often. You don't grow AI professors on trees. It takes a long time to grow an AI professor who can then train the next generation. Of course, some of them will go off and work for the companies, and then they come back eventually in some one way or another. And when they've
This is a hint for you, Mounia.
Huh?
It's a hint for Mounia. She left it. Joking.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, she could. Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. She's very well respected in what she does, and has done such amazing work out in industry. And we all look to her as a leader in that space.
But Wendy,
the point is that
please.
I think we need to develop these two. And whether we could do one for the world, I wouldn't put a bet on that. It's just who's going to do it. I was talking to Mike Waldridge earlier, who's one of the leads at Oxford, one of our top AI professors based at Oxford, and he was saying the EU effort to develop a CERN for AI. I think if we could get the political heavyweights behind that, I think there's something we could do for Europe, and I would include the UK in that, in terms of, as we are in CERN, right? We'd pay our membership way. I think if we could get something behind that, I think that would be my best bet.
That's great,
Georgio's
because
hand up.
a sovereign model is one thing and protects you from the Trumps of the world. But a global thing is, what we may want to do. Giorgio, you raise your hands. I want to do that, but also I want to hear from the rest of you. I mean, let's spend the remaining 4 minutes on this. Can we have a global effort to have an open AI, foundational AI model? So let's say less than 1 minute each. We heard Wendy, the CERN for AI. Giorgio,
Yes,
you go
yes,
next.
thank you. Yes, thank you. In line with what Wendy was saying, and also partially by Taylor, there is a possibility, but we need to be also realistic. So if we mean building the largest frontier model, probably it will be very unrealistic, in the sense that we have limits as public institutions and universities. If we mean developing open, trustworthy, research-oriented AI system, well, I think we have an important space which is outside big tech. And so if we want to have models where data limitations, evaluation, and use are clear, this is probably where the open community-led efforts can be valuable.
Great. And we can have Americans. I mean, what Percy Liang is doing at Stanford with Marine is something in this direction, but of course, just himself and whatever Open Athena is giving him, it's not enough. We have to do things together. Taylor, what do you have to say?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think something that's really important to take here is kind of the ethos of the open science community, or the openness principles, and see where that translates to. When we're talking about AI and this idea of being able to build something together, what really openness is talking about is to go against the concentration of power that we're currently seeing. I think that's the most important thing to counter, not necessarily just openness for openness sake. And I think, to be honest, with the security risks surrounding frontier AI models, going a full open weight method might not be the best strategy, and it might not also be the most competitive strategy, as has been pointed out, given what's available. But we do need a forum where people can share and work together. And something like what Wendy was talking about, a CERN for AI, is definitely an interesting strategy, because it enables those kind of cooperations, those kind of public investment and insight, and is a good trade-off, I think, between a lot of the kind of security risks that we see with AI versus this need for access and still prioritizing the principles of openness.
Good warning.
Can I just, I know we're running out of time, riff off of that, Taylor, because actually we wouldn't have to restrict it to Europe if we got it right. Canada, right, Australia, Singapore, they're all the middle powers who are really good at AI, but don't have access to the big, the US and Chinese companies. And I think they would play with this as well.
Yeah, I agree. Should be global. We are out of time, but no, Philipp, 1 or 2 sentences, and then we'll finish with you, Mounia. Philipp.
Yeah, sure. So I also agree to what other panelists already said. I think it's, from my perspective, there's one other argument. So even if we would succeed in building this foundation model on a global level once, then there's this maintenance, or essentially retraining this again and again, right? So I think we see this nowadays a lot, that a model that is 6 months old is already considered outdated in some papers. And it's not really about training it once, but keep up training it again and again. So my perspective is also more about building up the expertise, bringing together researchers and developing the knowledge and the education to be available or to be ready when something happens with the industrial labs and access gets harder. But not immediately training a foundational model from scratch.
Sure. Mounia, last word, last sentence. Lead us to the future.
Yeah, so I agree the foundational model from scratch. I think we should be also be aware that not all companies are actually developing foundational models. I think that's super important. They are hard to build, they're hard to maintain, they are hard to improve. So a company like Spotify make usage of them and so on. So I think it's not even like academia and so on. So I think that is one thing. I do think this community has a lot to give because we are experts. We are some are in industry, some are in academia. We know how things work and we have a voice. So by being more active, by talking with industry, talking with academia, talking with various government, we have something to move forward. Again, I'm kind of positive, but we work with those people in those big labs and so on. They want to do good. And so I view it like, let's just work on this together and let's just talk. And this community, this conference is a great way to do that.
Wonderful. Keep the work together, that was emphasized. I want to thank you all very much. You brought in many perspectives, different backgrounds, as I said, time zones, age zones, industry, academia, policy. Thank you so much for accepting and for all the things that you shared in this panel. It was great having you around, and I guess that's it. We are signing off, right, host? Thank you very much, and thank you for all those of you who attended the panel.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye, Yoelle. Bye, Hakim.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. It was a great panel, really.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I enjoyed it. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully yes.
So yeah,
Good.
we will make our best. I'll see you all in Dublin next year, hopefully. And we will make our best to publicize where all these plenary session clips will be accessible so that
Right.
people can see and re-see it.
Yoelle, Hakim, thank you for inviting me.
course.
And as I said, I wish we had done it in Dubai, but it doesn't matter. This went very well as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
We hope we will do it again in Dubai at some point.
Yes, I'm voting for it. I'm voting for it. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye,
you
Thank you
all.
for coming,
Bye.
everyone. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.